So then, 5 days on from our first. I'm going to have to start that again. It's not 5 days.
Come on, bro.
Oh. So then, 10 days on from our first episode here on Below the Prem podcast. We've had 2 game weeks since then. A lot to talk about in the EFL Championship. Our team, the Sky Blues, still unbeaten. Back-to-back wins over that 2 game weeks. What's that, 5 wins in a row now, Joner?
It is 5 wins in a row. Yes, sir. If we were
Things
the
have
United Strand, we would have been able to cut our hair.
Yeah, maybe I need to cut my hair soon. I don't know. Maybe, it looks like it's about time. I don't know. But yeah, very, very happy with how the Sky Blues have done. A lot to talk about in the Championship. A couple of all 3 teams actually really, really struggling by the looks of things for this past 2 game weeks that were relegated last season. And on the other hand, you've got all 3 teams that were promoted last season, all doing kind of well, I would say. I mean, I know we saw Birmingham lose on Saturday, but they've turned it around with a win. So best to start off by introducing yourself, Joner. Obviously, if you haven't seen this before, I'm Alex Craig, Coventry City fan, YouTuber. Just hit 10,000 subscribers in the past week as well. Really, really happy with that. So thank you everyone for your support. And this channel also hit over 250 subscribers this week as well. So that's fantastic. Hopefully we can, be pushing for that first 1,000 soon, would you say, Joner?
Yes, sir. So a couple things. First off,
Thank you.
I don't know how to stop it now. Okay, there we go. Congrats on 10K. I also just hit 1K, but obviously, bigger achievement there. Good stuff for you. We are going to keep pushing on. Thank you guys for the support. If this is your first time listening to us, and maybe you know Alex, you don't know me, I am Jonah or Joner Fat Cat. I also am a Coventry City fan, and this is the Below the Prem podcast. So, couple things that we are going to talk through today, and then for the first time, exclusively here, you are going to hear our match week, is it 13? No, match week 12 predictions.
Yeah.
100% accurate. Put all of your money on it. These exact predictions because they will be correct. Alex, what happened last weekend of significance? Top of the table, relegation battle, mid-table. What stood out to you before we get into yesterday's matches?
Well, I think we should start at the top of the table because on the last episode, we did get a comment from someone saying that they actually skipped to the end because they wanted to hear us talk about Coventry. So let's talk about Coventry first, but we'll probably scatter it through the episode as well, and we'll kind of leave it to the end. We won't speak about them at the end. So they've got to find us speaking about Coventry. 2-0 routine win over Blackburn already. I think Blackburn brought their game to the CBS, played really, really good football at times. I think in the final third, they just lacked that quality. They lacked that striker. And I mean, over recent years, they've lost a lot of decent players up front. And I mean, I think they're just at a point now where Blackburn are really, really going to struggle to score goals this season. I think they've scored the least amount in the league. And for me, that's really, really worrying for them. Really, really worrying, especially because coming out of that game, I wouldn't particularly say Coventry were the best team. I think we had a 5-minute spell where we scored 2 goals, and that was really what cemented the 3 points for us. And I know Blackburn got on the score sheet against Sheffield United midweek, but for me, that's a difficult place to, they're at home, but, a difficult team to score against. It doesn't matter how poor Sheffield United have started. I think we'll probably go on to them. They could be turning things around. Now out of the bottom 3, and they've got a couple of tough games coming up, but even still, I think things will start to gel a little bit more now at Bramall Lane, especially under Chris Wilder. But yeah, obviously really happy with the Sky Blues. Talking about the bottom of the table, obviously we've spoken about Sheffield United and them finally starting to pick up points. Back-to-back wins now for the Blades, a 1-0 win at home against Watford. For me, I mean, I know we've got Watford on Saturday. I think sacking their manager might have played a big part in this. Maybe they've sacked the right man at the wrong time way too early. Maybe not. Who knows? Very hard to see. And then also speaking about Preston North End, who on the last podcast I made a little bit, not of a joke, but, we were speaking about Portsmouth and how the only teams that they could beat were the ones at the top. Preston had only lost 1 game. Now back-to-back defeats for North End. Birmingham City at Deepdale last night. I think that's a massive, massive win for Blues. And massive for Chris Davis as well, because I think he would have been under a lot of pressure had they have gone to Deepdale and failed to win. And also a loss against West Brom. So hopefully they struggle against the West Midlands teams this season, and we might actually beat Preston at Deepdale. But yeah, I mean, we can also speak about Norwich City quickly as well, and their result on the weekend over Bristol City. I'm really starting to worry about Norwich. I don't know about you, Jonah, but Liam Manning going to his old club, Bristol City at home, not going there, he's obviously at home. Would have expected something. I mean, he moved away from Bristol City to Norwich, whether it was for money or whether he thought that there was a better project done at Norwich or not. I mean, the 3-1 defeat away to Ipswich, their first loss in 16 years. I know we're going back a few weeks here, but that was huge. That was huge to begin with. To then play Bristol City, another side that would be top to at least be up there, but Norwich were as well. To then fail to win, but then Pride Park on a Tuesday night, a 1-0 loss again. Really, really starting to worry about Norwich. What's your thoughts on Norwich, Jonah?
Yeah, it's totally fair to say that. I mean, obviously, when we saw them at the CBS a few weeks back, they did put in a good performance. You know, whether it was a bit theatrical or not, they did end up getting a point against us. Now, it's a good point that you brought up. You know, go back to the derby against Ipswich Town. I think that was probably when the iceberg began to tip for Liam Manning, Norwich City, a club that are, not scared, maybe not the most quick to sack managers in the championship, but they're not scared to sack managers. You know, Liam Manning coming in this season, first loss in 16 years is very tough, but, you can chalk that one up to parachute payments, Ipswich Town, whether they've been at top form or not. It's table discrepancy wise and just quality wise, they definitely were outmatched that game. But then you look at, people were calling it the Liam Manning Derby, Bristol City against Norwich City. They go and lose that game. Maybe again, you look at that, Norwich are near the bottom of the table, Bristol City are mid to upper. But then you look at yesterday's result, or whenever you're watching this Tuesday evening's result against Derby County, a team, you could probably say two teams that are going in the wrong direction, teams that, probably were expected to do more. I mean, just a few weeks ago, Josh Sargent was the top scorer in the league, was looking unstoppable. He hasn't scored since before the first international break, which is a very, very long time. He got called up to the national team between during the first international break, wasn't able to do anything there. So I think a lot of players have lost a little bit of confidence there, and I think that it's probably getting to a point where it may be time for them to sack their manager. Whether it's the right or wrong decision, that's totally up to you. I'm sure there's probably people on either side of it, considering, we are less than one quarter of the way into the season. But it's a cutthroat league. I mean, we've already seen managers sacked. I'm sure that's going to be a recurring topic. Managers that maybe have been on the hot seat and either saved and bought themselves a little bit more time or maybe cut their time in half. I think that Liam Manning is probably one of the next managers to be sacked. And like I said, whether it's wrong or right, it is what it is. It's the championship. I mean, if you look at the table right now, we're recording this during the Wednesday evening fixtures. Between 18th place and the playoffs is 6 points. Just a 2-game swing. I mean, couple things, literally 2 kicks of the ball go differently in a team that's in 18th, such as Southampton could be in the playoffs right now. So the championship moves quick. The managers move quicker. I think he probably will get sacked. But that's a lot of negative talk. Let's talk about something positive. Maybe not positive for you or me, but I want to take it over to Birmingham City as we are on the manager hot seat topic. Chris Davies may have bought himself a little bit more time yesterday. The 1-0 win, they scored from a set piece. What were your thoughts on that match? I have an interesting statistic and something I want to bounce off you. Did you think that was a convincing victory? Did you think it was just enough? What are your thoughts on that match, Alex?
I think for me, it's a game where Birmingham come away with just about all they really needed. 3 points away from home. Preston, not an easy place to go to. I think it's a really, really good result, Jonah. Preston have started this season phenomenally. I think they've, surpassed everyone's expectations. And Birmingham are now more in a position where I feel like Blues fans would have expected them to be come this point in the season, even if they hadn't started. I mean, they're now, 3 points off the playoffs? And this is a side who have kind of been calling for the head of Chris Davis. It's going to take a little bit of time to adapt to the Championship. I know they spent a lot of money on a lot of players that would be classed as big players at this level, but you've got to remember they were playing in League One last season. You've got to say that about all three of the newly promoted sides as well. I mean, Charlton they've really, really shocked me, if I'm perfectly honest. I think Nathan Jones is a little bit like Marmite. You either love him or hate him as a manager, but he's done a fantastic job. Wrexham, I feel like they kind of knew they would struggle just a little bit. I know they spent a lot of money, brought in a lot of Championship quality players, but even they have picked up wins in the past five. So for me, I've got to just say I respect Birmingham for how they've been able to kind of go through games. They've had a couple of draws. I think they were a little bit unlucky against Hull, really, but Hull will go on to them and their result against Leicester because I'd love to talk about that. But I mean, they were a little bit unlucky in that game, really, to not come away with 3 points. I think the game against Coventry, 3-0 loss, is probably not as much as a freak result if you then look at Coventry beating Millwall 4-0, Sheffield Wednesday 5-0, and being by far the best team in the league so far. So for me, I think Birmingham are doing just about enough to, I would say, be at that expectation of where fans would have expected them to be. I think they started the season so well with back-to-back wins against Blackburn and Oxford. A draw against Ipswich was saw as a really, really good result. And then they went on a little bit of a losing streak where they lost against Leicester, Stoke and Birmingham. Coventry, sorry. But that's what, three teams that are all in the playoffs or in and around the playoffs. I'm not sure if Leicester have dropped out. Oh, they have, yes, 10th. That's great. Not as low as I'd want them to be, but you know, I'll take that. But yeah, three teams that would be expected to be in and around the playoffs. Stoke have done really well this season. So for me, I think it was a bit of an overreaction on, calling for the head of Chris Davis. But I think I said in the previous episode, I know a lot of Birmingham fans that weren't exactly against, keeping him at the club and think he is the right man. The question of whether he is the right man or not, I think it still remains to be seen. I think the next 5 or 6 games are still very, very important because I feel like if they fail to win at least 2 or 3 of them, then he could be put under a lot of pressure. But I think they just need to give him a bit of time. He's gone into a job where he's had all the resources that he needs in League One, and then he's gone straight up to the Championship where it really is a massive, massive step up. It's a rare, rare occurrence. And I think that, because Ipswich did it under Kieran McKenna 2 years ago, that fans forget how rare it is for a team to step up and go back-to-back League One, Championship, Premier League. The last team to do it was Southampton in 2011-12. So, I mean, there you go. It's not a regular occurrence. It's a once every, 10, 15 years thing. I would be really surprised if Birmingham are even in the playoffs this year. And I don't mean that in any disrespect. I know I even predicted them to be in and around the playoffs. I just feel like I don't know, we spoke about the January transfer window as well, but there may be 1 or 2 players behind maybe where they need to be. But we'll see at the end of the season. It's still not even a quarter of the way through, around about a quarter of the way through. And I mean, for Coventry to be undefeated nearly a quarter of the way through, I know I won't shut up about it all episode, but it's fantastic.
Definitely. Yeah, Birmingham City, I think it's going to be a cycle where, if they have poor results, people are going to be calling for Chris Davies' head. But you know what? At the end of the day, they were sold a dream from the club, the owners, and a lot of the fans truly did believe. And a lot of us were, I guess you could say, sprung into believing that they were truly just going to go up and up. I mean, the bookies' odds reflected it, but they've got a tough run of fixtures coming. They've got Bristol City, Pompey, Millwall, Middlesbrough. Then they get Norwich in a couple weeks from now. So very interesting to see what happens there. Now, speaking of a team that just played Birmingham City, who've been off to a phenomenal start, is Hull City. I want to shout them out. I know I've got some Hull City friends. Shout out Glimpse. He was looking for the Hull City mention in the first episode. Let's talk about them. The game against Leicester City. They go ahead and they beat Leicester City yesterday, midweek football. Very, very good display from them. Ollie McBurney did not feature in this game. Ollie McBurney has been scoring a lot of goals. They've got Harry Giles down the left side. He looked really, really dangerous in that game yesterday. On the other side, I think Leicester City have a serious finishing issue, striker issue. They cannot seem to get the ball to hit the back of the net. They put themselves in positions time and time again in every game that they play, but they've had a tough time finishing. They've got Jordan Ayew and Patson Daka. That's about their strike force. They've got Aaron Ramsey from the midfield. He had a good goal in the match yesterday, but it just ultimately wasn't enough. Harry Giles booming down the left side, putting balls into the box. Leicester just couldn't handle it, simple as that. They did make a late run, but I want to ask you a question. Do you look at that result as Hull showing and flexing their muscles, or do you look at it Leicester City underperforming? Because during the highlights and just the playback of the game, it looked like it was an end-to-end game. Both teams had many opportunities. I'm very curious to know what the XG on. I feel like it was very high because every time I looked at that game, there was something going on. Yeah, so we got a 1.5 XG from both sides. You think Hull were lucky? You think Leicester were unlucky? What are your thoughts?
Well, I want to start off by just saying, obviously, we're 11 games into the season, so I haven't seen us play more than half of the teams in the league yet. But the two toughest games that Coventry have faced this season were Hull at home and Leicester away. Leicester's always going to be a tough game, just for it being a derby and it being away from home. Plus, they're in the Premier League last season. But Hull, I mean, I'm going to be honest, my expectations going into this season were nothing, if not even a little flirt of relegation. 3 wins on the bounce now against Birmingham, Sheffield United, and Leicester. And I'm sure there would have been Hull fans looking at that run of games, thinking, let's say the past 5 games, they would have probably thought we need to get something against Preston and Watford. We might be lucky to get something away at Blues, and then they might look at the Charlton and the Derby game following that as kind of must-win games. I'm talking at the start of the season here. But they've beaten 3 sides that would all have been expected to be in the top 6. Hull just outside of the playoffs. They had a little bit of a slow start, but I think against Coventry, from what I saw, they were just solid defensively. There was occasions in the game that were really frustrating as a Coventry fan where we should have put the ball in the back of the net. We didn't. And then they went on to beat Oxford in the first home game of the season. And then after that, I think they had a little bit of a rough patch, losing 3-0 against Blackburn, a side that, like I say, have scored the least amount of goals. We saw on Saturday that Blackburn really, really struggled in front of goal. And you look at that and think, oh, maybe Hull are going to struggle. But things have seemed to work out. Ollie McBurney has hit fantastic form. And by the way, I just want to say, I'm really surprised he came back to England. I don't know why you would move over to Las Palmas for a year in nice sunny Spain. And I tell you, Gran Canaria, because Spain is hot. Gran Canaria is the area of Spain, and it's obviously not mainland Spain, where on Christmas Day it's 25, it's hot, it's nice, beautiful weather. Why would you go from that to, North Yorkshire, cold, miserable, wet, rainy? Well, I tell you, it's to score goals in the Championship. I mean, 3rd top scorer in the league, joint with Coventry midfielder Victor Torp. So, I mean, he started fantastically, and he wasn't even playing against Leicester, like you mentioned. So, to go back to your question, I think it's a fantastic result. I think Leicester maybe again have come into the league with a little bit of an attitude where they thought, they were going to walk the league a little bit, and they're away from home. Hull on the night, better side, and have come away with 3 points. I mean, I look at the past 3 games, like Sheffield United and Birmingham, especially. I mean, them two just based off current form, Sheffield United at home, a 1-0 win's brilliant. But to go to St Andrews and pick up 3 points, I know it's against 10 men Birmingham, but to score 3 goals and pick up 3 points is fantastic. And, now looking at the next 3 games, on the road at Norwich and Derby, 2 sides that aren't performing particularly well. And then Charlton, I think, will be a tough game. I think Charlton have, again, similar to Hull, really, really outperformed anyone's expectations this year. So I've got to give Hull all their credit, all their due. They could be a surprise package this season, but I feel like there's quite a few teams that you can say that about, maybe Stoke and Charlton. So, yeah, I think it's a really, really exciting Championship season. There's a lot of teams that probably aren't up to kind of promotion standards on paper, but are really outperforming their expectations, and Hull are definitely one of them.
Yeah, for sure. Now, before we move into, oh, excuse me if you hear that. Sorry, live in a city. Before we get into maybe some other teams like Southampton, I want to talk about them. I have an interesting stat to share with you. You mentioned the Spain Heat. I am getting out of the cold this weekend, Alex. I am
Okay.
very, very excited. I'm getting out of New York, going to Charlotte, North Carolina for the weekend. Now, people are probably going to be so confused when I explain this, but I'm going to two football games, American football, okay? So the first one
Oh,
is Buffalo Bills versus Carolina Panthers, right? Just a standard game. Comparison of that would be like a Coventry versus like a honestly like a Blackburn. So a great team against maybe a not so great team. Now, I want to bring this up. On Saturday, I'm going to my first college football game. Do you know anything about college football?
I mean, no, not really. I think the only people I would know that have ever played college football would all be the who kind of went on to be in the WWE. So yeah,
WWE? The wrestlers?
yeah,
Wait, what?
that's like like Brock Lesnar and people like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Like people like that. I wouldn't be able to tell you. I think you mentioned like an American footballer in the last episode, and I recognised the name. And I've got a friend called Harrison who's a Coventry fan. And last night he was speaking to me. He loves American football. He's a Jags fan, mainly
Of
because they're
course.
like the main. They're the main team that always come over to England
Hmm.
and play here. So that's the main reason he supports the Jags. And obviously they've got the link with Fulham and stuff. And Tony Khan tried to buy Wembley, and I don't know. I feel like eventually you'll get a English kind of American football team, but obviously this isn't an American football podcast. Anyway, back to what Harrison said. He said something along the lines of whoever you mentioned on the last podcast or whenever we spoke about it said that he could throw the ball really far, but every time someone touches him, he falls over. Now I can't remember the guy's name. So that's how much I know about American football because I mean I had this conversation less than 24 hours ago. Patrick Mahomes, is that his name?
Yes, there you go.
Yes,
Patrick
there you go.
Mahomes. I'll listen,
Yeah.
I'll take over. I'll move on super quick. No one wants to listen to this. But I will link it to the beautiful championship. Tom Brady is probably regarded as the best NFL quarterback of all time. Patrick Mahomes is probably has the best chance of taking him down for the GOAT. Just that's all you need to know. But quickly, 30 seconds. Going to a college football game on Saturday. It's Alabama against South Carolina. It's the division is called the SEC. And basically, I was thinking about this all day, how I could paint a picture to make it seem that it's actually important. It's probably the equivalent to going to a Champions League fixture, pool play, like a Manchester City against AC Milan at the Etihad. That's I'm just gonna leave it at that. If anyone knows about college football or NFL football, just drop a comment. Let me know what team you support. But anyways, back to the premise of this podcast. If you want to blow your brains out and you're still here, sorry. Southampton. Let's talk about Southampton. The
Yeah,
last
definitely.
parachute team that we have not talked about yet today. So they go down again during the midweek football. 3
Well,
1 loss to Bristol City.
I want to start right up on Southampton because I saw a tweet and I have to agree with this here that this the way they are now under Will Still is kind of the fall on effect of having Russell Martin as a manager, having that negative, just I can't even describe Russell Martin as a manager, just negative attitude towards playing football, just possession based, won't won't play attacking football. Having that in the Premier League and having the ignorance of thinking that everything is wrong, not you, everything but you, the players, and your system is right. Having that attitude, that is what has got Southampton in this situation. Were they always going to be relegated last season? There's probably a 90% chance, yes. Under Russell Martin or not. If Russell Martin had gone like before the start of last season and they brought in whoever, they probably still would have been relegated. But I think that's had a massive knock-on effect here because they really, really haven't recovered. I mean, you go back to the Championship 2 seasons ago, yes, they went up through the playoffs, but if Leeds had won that game, I think it would have been a completely different story. I wouldn't have seen Southampton under Russell Martin really doing anything last season, even though the quality of the Championship, I feel last season was a lot lower than what we had the season before. So I think this is kind of the knock-on effect. I mean, look, they've picked up okay results. They're drawing a lot of games. This is the point I'm trying to make. They're not winning a lot of games. They're not attacking. They're not free flowing. They're going to places like Derby, getting a 1-1 draw, a 0-0 draw at home to Swansea. This is a side that haven't won at home in Southampton since opening day. A 96th minute winner from Jack Stevens. You know, I mean, like, against the newly promoted Wrexham as well. Like, I don't know. I really, really struggle to see where things turn around under Will Still, and it frustrates me because he's a young manager that wants to learn. Maybe he's a little bit out of his depth. Maybe he's been playing too much Football Manager. Who knows? But a 3-1 loss away to Bristol City. I think that's not the final nail in the coffin, but it's just a sign of where things are going for Southampton. Really, it really, really is, because they're not turning these draws into wins. I mentioned it about Sheffield United, in fact, turning them draws into wins, and they seemingly have started to do that now. Southampton, I mean, they've got a couple of games coming up that are pretty tough. Blackburn away. I mean, if they don't win that on the weekend, I don't know where their next win really comes from, which is crazy because they're a side that I think a lot would have backed to be in and around the playoffs. They've got, Preston at home after that, QPR away midweek, on Bonfire night as well. So that'll be an interesting one. And then Sheffield Wednesday at home. I mean, if I'm a Sheffield Wednesday fan, I'm looking at that thinking we can get something there. And that is crazy to think. I think, like I said, they just haven't recovered from Russell Martin's negative. You can call it football. I don't even know. I wouldn't even call it football, to be honest. But I think that's just a knock-on effect of having a manager like Russell Martin, and this has kind of been the aftermath, really, because they really haven't recovered from that playoff final.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and this goes hand in hand with the stat that I had mentioned. I want to bring up earlier, that hangover effect. No matter what would have happened in the championship, I mean, in the Prem last season, they would have been relegated, whether they sacked him earlier or not. Will still definitely is inheriting a very tough situation. I think a lot of managers are kind of in that scenario where they're not going into the best environment, but the top two teams possession wise in the championship are Southampton and Birmingham City. Southampton average around 59% possession, and Birmingham City are sitting at 57.5. This is before the midweek fixture, so it could be slightly different. Now, in yesterday's match, Southampton, despite losing 3-1, held 67% of possession. I like to say this in my YouTube videos all the time, and it sounds cliche, but it truly is the most important thing you can take. All possession isn't good possession. Passing the ball side to side and backwards isn't going to get you wins. Now, Southampton is an absolute perfect example of that. 67% possession against Bristol City, meaning Bristol City had 33% of the ball. Southampton made 300 more passes than Bristol City. They could not win the game. Birmingham City yesterday, on the other hand, a team that likes to hold possession. That was what they did in League One. League One is a completely different story. Maybe in League One you can do that because the quality is lower. So if you just consistently hold the ball and tire out defenders, you can break them down a little bit easier. Now, yesterday in their win against Preston, they only held 38% possession. So what that tells me is something is starting to grind in Chris Davies' head to kind of make tactical changes. And you know what? Maybe it took him a little bit of time, but maybe he is starting to get the plot and just understand that there are definitely levels between League One and the Championship. And going out there and dominating possession and beating down defenders for, 70 minutes of them being behind the ball is not how you're going to win. Southampton are still stuck in that style of play, and it's really hurting them. I mean, they're in 18th place. They've got some difficult fixtures coming up. I'm curious to know where the bookies have them odds-wise, because I know a lot of people have them tipped to still turn around, which there's absolutely all the time in the world for them to do. But the question is, will Still be the manager after this week if they do not get 3 points against Blackburn? I think if they go 0 for 3, missing out on 9 total points in this busy week, he will be sacked. But they could also go out and get a convincing win. So we will see. We're going to make predictions. We'll get into that. I think there's a couple more things for us to talk about before we get there.
Just to go back on the Will Still sacking. I mean, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because I think I, along with a lot of people, did top him to do really, really well. but there's only so much you can really take. We've seen managers get sacked that have had the same philosophy. I mean, Russell Martin's been hired and sacked in the time that Will Still's been at Southampton this season for playing possession-based football. So, I mean, you look at examples in the Championship. It wouldn't surprise me if Watford hire and sack another manager in the next month or two as well. Yeah, really, I don't know about Will Still being sacked. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure on that. I think by the next international break, if they haven't picked things up, it might be the time. But then, is there ever a right or wrong time to sack someone? I don't know. It's a real tough one. But Southampton, for me, have been massive underperformers in this league.
I don't think all the time. I really think it's a 50-50 split. It's not always the manager. I think just sometimes cultures of teams just slip, and maybe there's a history of clubs. I mean, there's plenty of clubs in the championship that are very quick to sack managers. We've already seen it this season. However, if you lose the locker room, whether you're a good coach or not, it is what it is at the end of the day. Like, we go back to Ruben Selles. I know that's an afterthought now, but he had just totally lost the locker room. Who really knows what's going on behind the scenes with Will Still? We had that statement come out that a club captain said that they don't back their manager at all, but it was an anonymous source. I mean, that's just straight up total speculation, but who knows? We'll see. We're going to make predictions on them shortly. But just a quick update, because you're going to be seeing this after the Wednesday evening fixtures ended. West Brom have just went down 2-1 to Watford, club that Coventry are playing this weekend. Middlesbrough are still holding a narrow 1-0 lead over Sheffield Wednesday. If Watford could build some momentum, could be an interesting game on Saturday. A little bit of a boost with a new manager, a familiar face coming in. We will monitor and see what happens there. Oxford United are losing 1-0 to Wrexham. Wrexham have been coming on. I mean, they obviously had the loss coming out of the international break, but they had a couple good strings of performances. Out of the three out of the three newly promoted teams, surely it has to be Charlton that we're backing, right? How about that result against Ipswich yesterday?
I'm a little bit concerned for Ipswich as well, and even the job of Kieran McKenna, to be honest. I think he's a little bit like Mark Robbins in the sense that I'm talking about Mark Robbins at Coventry last season, in the sense that people will go, well, look at the job he's already done. And, I mean, even when Robbins was sacked, there was a lot of people that had that kind of idea that he had a lot of credit in the bank. I stand here nearly 12 months later and would say that whoever sacked Mark Robbins made the correct decision, but the day it happened after the 2-1 loss to Derby at home, we'd won a few games leading up to that. I wasn't so sure. I mean, Ipswich are a team that a lot of people would have backed to be, up there this season and really going far. But I'm just not too convinced with their performances, especially their results. They're letting in quite a few goals in games as well. A 3-0 loss at home to Charlton is just not on at all for a side that were in the Premier League last year, playing a team that were, in League One, had the shoe been on the other hand and Leyton Orient won that day at Wembley, Charlton wouldn't have even been in this game. And I know they made some decent signings. I don't want to go back and talk about last season's side and that, but I don't think Ipswich made too many changes that really had me worrying. A loss 2-1 on Friday night at the Riverside is nothing to be ashamed of. I think there'll be a lot of sides that struggle against Middlesbrough, especially away from home. A Friday night, not an easy game. But the momentum from that 3-1 win against Norwich, I thought that was really going to push them on, but it really hasn't. I know they had a little bit of a tough start, didn't win until the 12th of September. After the first international break, smashed Sheffield United, and everyone's looking at that thinking, right, Ipswich are well on form. They're going to be up for it. They're going to bring on the momentum. And then we talk about that Blackburn game. There was 10 minutes left in that game. Ipswich could have turned around and scored 2-3 goals and won that game, but things weren't going too well for them. I think they kind of got away with one there, but we'll see what happens at Ewood Park when they replay in a midweek game. Then on to the Portsmouth game at Portman Road, another home game, massive win. 2-1. We saw from Portsmouth last night that they are a tough side to play, and I've got to give them the credit here, by the way. Was really impressed with Portsmouth. I mean, Fratton Park's not an easy place to go. And yeah, I mean, I think they'll be okay this season, kind of mid-table, might even be in and around the playoffs. Who knows? I think they're lacking the kind of championship quality and experience, but they've got some decent kind of forwards as well in Connor Chaplin and Colby Bishop. So, yeah, I think they've got a decent-ish side. Anyway, back to Ipswich. I'm kind of going on a tangent here. So, 3 home wins on the bounce to then lose 3-0 to Charlton at home. It is definitely a frustrating one. Back-to-back defeats now for the Tractor Boys. I'm not too sure where things will kind of go from here. Not the easiest of fixtures either. A half-12 home game against West Bromwich Albion. Saturday awaits them, and I'm sure, I mean, like we say, we'll go on to speak about the results tonight when the full-time whistle is blown. But if they don't find an equaliser or even a winner in the game, I mean, there's 10 minutes left at Vicarage Road, but if West Brom can't get anything from that game, they're definitely going to want to get something away at Ipswich on Saturday. So for me, Kieran McKenna could be under a little bit of pressure. I know, like I said, they've won 3 out of 4 games at home, but the expectation for them was definitely promotion. I'm not sure who they would replace him with, but I mean, I don't know. Is it too early to be really talking about him being sacked? I'm not too sure. I don't know what you think, Joner, but I think the past few games, plus the poor start as well, not finding a win until the 12th of September, kind of all add up a little bit.
Well, it feels like there's been 2 different times this season where Ipswich had a super convincing win, and you would think to yourself, okay, they might officially be back. The thrashing of Sheffield United, and then the win in the derby over Norwich City. However, following up those games, they have not shown that same pedigree that they had. They've shown flashes of brilliance. Philogene has really been great, but I think, and this is coming from an Ipswich fan, Benjamin Bloom. We all know him, we all love him. He gives very, very honest reviews. He even said after this loss against Charlton that this was the first time where maybe he started to bat an eye at Kieran McKenna. So if he's going to say it, it's totally fair because everything that he says comes from a middle ground and a non-biased standpoint. So I think it is fair to begin to ask questions. Definitely too soon to sack him. I feel like all we're talking about this episode is the sacking of managers, but it'll be a bit uncomfortable in the press conferences moving forward if they don't start to pick it back up. Betting wise, the bookies do still have them second favorites to win the championship. I've not checked since the 3-0 loss against Charlton, but it's pretty tough for one result to sway it too far. I know Middlesbrough have been shortening their odds as well, but the bookies still have them up there, and we keep beating on a dead horse, but it is super early into the season. We shall see. Now, one last thing I want to ask you before we get into our predictions. What'd you think of the Coventry City performance yesterday? What'd you think specifically of Ellis Sims yesterday, Luke Wolfenden making his first start for the club, and just the entire season of Brandon Thomas Asante? Those 3. Little mouthful for you.
Well, a lot of questions there. We'll start with Sims. I was impressed, very impressed with how he played. I think he kind of brought that good balance, held up the ball really, really well in parts, and I mean, he set up that second goal for Asante. Fantastic ball. Plays it to him on a plate. And I mean, that second goal kind of sealed the deal, at least up until added time when we were really, really held against it. I think if that game had gone on 5 more minutes, Pompey might have found an equaliser in that game. So I think we kind of got away with one there. I mean, I feel like it's a massive, massive 3 points going to Fratton Park, a 4-1 thrashing last season against them. The first time I've seen us beat them in the league. I think I've been there maybe 4 or 5 times. So very, very happy with the result. Luke Wolfenden, I think he slotted in to that back 5 really well. I think the system change was needed in a sense that we were going to play a team that attacked us in ways and got a lot of space coming forward. But we've also got wing backs that can play really well coming forward and come back in Milan Van Uwijk and Jay Da Silva. But I think obviously when Jake Bidwell comes on and Kane Kesler-Hayden, we've not so much got that balance. But we really needed to cling on and defend at that point. I was impressed by Luke Wolfenden. I think, again, though, the issue is if we do go back to playing a back 4, are we going to play Kitchen and Thomas, or is Wolfenden going to be dropped in there. For me, it has to be that solid back four that had kept the clean sheet for, what was it, 5 games in a row. And maybe on Saturday against Watford, we might do just that. They're a side that tend to play 2 up top and kind of 2 attacking midfielders, wingers as well. So, I mean, that'll be interesting to see how we set up against Watford. And finally, Thomas Asante, 8 goals this season. Absolutely fantastic. It's funny because West Brom were very, very keen when we signed them, signed Thomas Asante, that he'd only score 10 goals every season. So that means Asante's only allowed to score 2 more goals now.
Oh, no.
From now until the end of the season. Yeah.
Well, if we're going
It's
by
a
that
shame.
logic, that's good because that means Jay
Yeah.
Stansfield can only score 7 more since I said he's going to score less than 10 this year.
Yeah.
No, but Brandon Thomas Asante has been absolutely phenomenal. There are no words to describe him. He has just been an anomaly. He has been the best player this season. I want to just highlight this. I feel like it's going under the radar. So Frank Lampard, on a short turnaround, decides, okay, we're going against a club that has some really impressive home results, took down Middlesbrough for the first time this season. The confidence and the cojones to change the formation, change the tactics, drop the top goal scorer in the league in the entire season, and the team still goes out and gets a convincing victory. It's just every single week I feel like I'm just turning off the stream of the game, just even more shocked. I just feel like it's just something new every single week, and what is going on? It just feels like everything is just clicking. Have a terrible game against Blackburn. 3 minutes of brilliance. Win the game 2-0. Comfortable. Change the formation. Drop our top scorer. Easy victory. It is just insane what Coventry City are doing. And you have seen all of, the poor times, not having a home ground. How do you even describe what is going on this season?
I mean, this is the best I've ever seen it. I had a comment on my video, my matchday vlog from the Portsmouth video, or it might have been on Twitter. He said something along the lines that 56 years ago was his first game and he's never seen it this good. I can't quite go back 56 years, I'm afraid, but things are just unbelievable, Joner, at this point. And I want to mention the games that I've left this season. I thought, yeah, this is the year. So we obviously have a good start. That's great. We're winning a few games. But I think the first game that really, really clicked it was Millwall. We beat Birmingham 3-0 at home. But that for me was like, okay, Birmingham weren't particularly great. Went to the Den, won 4-0. I'm walking to that ground going, I'll take a point tonight. It's not an easy place to go. There's been times I've been away at Millwall. We've been 2-0 up at half time and we've left with 5 minutes to go because our goalkeeper's just come out stupidly on a free kick and Millwall score and it's 3-2. And I never ever leave games early. I think that's one of like the handful of times I ever have. So I've seen that at Millwall, as bottle a 2-0 lead. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday, I've been there 3 or 4 times. Seen us really, really struggle at times late on in a game in the cup, saw them take us to a replay, and then to go there and win 5-0. And I know it's a little bit different because obviously, it's Sheffield Wednesday and what they're going through. I think that was a massive thing for me to go, this is the year, this has to be the year. I mean, the Millwall game that day, it just felt so perfect, I would say, like leaving the ground. And I've got a friend who's a Millwall fan and he was fuming, absolutely fuming with the result. And I was saying to him, you've just played the best team in the league. And he's obviously thinking I'm joking around, but there's a part of me that genuinely believes that at this point. To then talk about last night, I mean, I've been to Portsmouth. The first time I ever went there, the coach was late, turned up 10 minutes late. Geordie Hawula had taken the lead for us. 1-0 up, great. Don't think we had a shot on target for the rest of the game, lost 2-1. Been there, seen us lose 4-1, seen us go from 3-1 down with 9 men on the pitch and get a late equaliser. So I've seen the highs and the lows. But last night for me was just fantastic in the sense that, there was no late goal, but we weren't battered, but we were just routine win. It was a routine win. And that's exactly what you need, a routine win. How many times do we hear it in the top leagues where Man City get a routine win, Liverpool get a routine win, Real Madrid get a routine win in the Champions League? That's exactly how we have to be. And you talk about the changing of tactics. This is Frank Lampard. This is a man who a lot of people underestimated, but this is a man who's won Champions Leagues. This is a man that's won Premier Leagues. This is a man that's won everything he could have possibly wanted to win, FA Cups, League Cups, the lot. He knows, he has that experience of being in a big game situation. And, for example, last night, tactics probably needed to change. We've played the same formation for how many games now? Portsmouth would know exactly how to set up against us. And we changed that. And now we could go going against Watford on Saturday, and they're not going to know, well, Coventry going to play with 5 at the back, or are they going to play with 4 at the back and 3 in midfield? Because they genuinely don't know. And I think it was needed as well. The formation change was definitely needed because obviously we are missing Radoni. Jamie Allen can't play week in, week out. No disrespect to him, I think he's a great player. I just think on the legs it's probably not the best thing for him. And sometimes, you need to give players like Luke Wolfenden a little bit of, I don't want to use the word experience because he's an experienced player, but a little bit of game time to really get going in this squad. So, yeah, a lot of positives to talk about Coventry City. We move on to Watford on Saturday. That's not going to be an easy game. I'm interested to see how I feel after the Stoke game. I think that will be a big thing. That's on October the 8th because we've got a few games before then. We've got to play Sheffield United, Wrexham as well. I think that's 16, 17 games in. I think that will be when I maybe come out and say, yeah, this is our year. Because I've said it to my friends and stuff when I've left games, but there's a part of me that's not overly confident yet. And you're a stat man, Joner, so you're probably not going to know this off the top of your head. But if you can't work this out, can someone in the comments help us here? When was the last time someone got to game 11 in the Championship undefeated and wasn't promoted? I'd love to know when that was, because I don't know.
Yeah, that one I don't have an answer to, but I don't think it has happened recently. So, all good stuff. Very positive. Looking forward to obviously the rest of the fixtures. That is going to take us into our predictions, which is fun.
Okay.
A little bit of fun. Take it with a grain of salt. Obviously, it wasn't being serious earlier when I said put all your money on it. Maybe I will. Who knows? Also, Alex, 2 questions for you. One, in your vlogs and just when you go to games and stuff, are you drinking? Do you drink at the games?
Not particularly, no. Not
Okay.
really. I think it's like, well, you say the word drinking. I'm never really drunk, if that makes sense. I'll have a few drinks. Sometimes I'll just be drinking water, but not really. I wouldn't really. I'm trying to think. I don't want to. I don't want to kind of go off on a tangent here, but English football fans will understand this. If we get Blackpool away in the FA Cup, then I'll be drinking. Then you will see, because that's Blackpool away and Huddersfield. I like a trip to Huddersfield as well because it's cheap. The pubs are cheap. I went to Huddersfield one year, Jonah, and my friends just describe it as I was nearly in the home end. It was a 1-1 draw. I didn't see either goal. I was gone. I was gone that day. But I kind of feel like I've got a bit of a responsibility on the video as well. I don't want to be too drunk. I had quite a bit to drink at Leicester before, but that was a 12:30. So after the game, it was drinks and drinks and drinks. But when you come over to England, Jonah, man, you've got to have a few beers and stuff before the games. And yeah, I mean, I think just to base it off as well, I think I don't know, not to say I can like handle my drink, but I'm not drunk. I'm never drunk at a game, sort of thing. So I don't know. Yeah.
Well, wait till Leicester City when I'm over there, because that's gonna change. Anyways, um, second question: what are you dressing up as for Halloween this year, Alex?
I'm a boring man. I don't think I've celebrated Halloween since I was about 12, if I'm honest.
So you're not gonna wear a Deadpool costume to Wrexham away?
Definitely not, but it is Wrexham away. Interesting.
The perfect
Interesting.
opportunity.
The only Halloween / costume I have is an Exeter City steward jacket.
It's not a
Um,
costume.
yeah, I could add that to a I don't know.
Okay,
Well,
well, okay, that's fine.
I've asked you the same question because America seem to kind of indulge into Halloween a little bit more
Yeah.
than us Brits.
Well, if you look right behind me, I've got some Halloween decorations in there. I've got some bones, powdered bones, a skeleton. I've got more, but long story short, my costume just came in the mail today. I've been doing watch-alongs for the away games, so I'm doing a whole big Halloween watch-along for the Wrexham Cub game. So I'm very excited for that. Keep an eye out. My costume is hilarious. But
Okay,
anyways, that's all. That's all in the future. Let's predict the future right now, me and you, okay? The results
okay.
are just coming in from the Wednesday evening fixtures. So I can tell you right now. Just kidding. They're all in extra time. We'll
Well,
check back in on that.
I think we should maybe start off with two teams that aren't playing tonight for our predictions, and then we can kind of base that off the current results. Then
Okay.
a little bit. I don't. To be honest, I don't think too much is going to change unless we do see any late drama in the games tonight. And I know that there will be people probably listening, going, "Oh, it's a bit of an inconvenient time to record." You've got to remember that it is what 20 to 10 here in Britain. You're over in America, and we can't film this at silly o'clock. But I mean, in the 90th minute, QPR are 1-0 up at Swansea, Watford 2-1 up at home to West Brom, and Wrexham looked like they could come away with 3 points despite being down to 10 men at home to Oxford United. So that'll be a massive result for Wrexham. Just to see who was sent off in the game.
Alan Doyle.
Callum Doyle, a former Coventry City player, another former Coventry City player in Dom Hyam being booked, and was Ben Sheaf in there. God, it really is going to be Coventry City reserves away. Matty James as well. Wow, it really is Coventry City reserves. Ben Sheaf, is he not on the bench? Probably injured, Ben Sheaf, isn't it? Anyway, we'll start off with the predictions then. I think we should start with a Friday night game at Deepdale. Preston North End, Sheffield United. Interesting game because obviously Sheffield United probably a team that we're expecting to be where Preston are. Preston now with 3 defeats to their name after back-to-back defeats in the Championship. Sheffield United with back-to-back wins. So I feel like this could be an interesting game, Joner. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one. Two teams that you probably wouldn't have backed to be where they are when the season began. Preston trying to continue, a decent run of form. Sheffield United trying to claw their way back up. I think Preston are going to be the team that come out victorious here. Sheffield United are clawing their way back up, as I said, slowly, but I don't think it's going to be enough in this game. I'm going to go with a 2-1 home victory for Preston. What about you?
I feel like this could be the start of a decline for Preston. I don't think they're going to lose this game, but I don't see them winning. I am going to go for a 2-2 draw. I think this could be a game where they start off really, really well and Sheffield United get into the groove a little bit. Sheffield United aren't scoring too many goals though, but I do think it could be a fair and, ish game here and there. I'm going with Preston 2, Sheffield United 2 on Friday night at Deepdale. And then we move on to the half 12 games. Three all on Sky Sports because Sky Sports love a half 12 game. So, we've all got to wake up a lot earlier. And the one team that are doing the biggest trip is Stoke City down to Fratton Park. Obviously, Portsmouth coming off a 2-1 loss to Coventry City and Stoke losing 2-0 at the Den to Millwall. So both teams coming off a loss. Mark Robins, I've got to say, has done a fantastic job at Stoke City this season. I mean, I've said this about quite a few teams, but really shocked me with how much they've improved off last season. I'm not sure really too much on kind of the longevity of that, whether that will last for the entire season, whether it was just a really good start. I know they've got quality in their team. They have lost the likes of Valtberger, who was probably their best player last season. For me, I am going to go with a 1-1 draw. Again, playing it down the middle. But I don't see Portsmouth losing another game at home. They're a tough team to break down. We saw that when they played Coventry City and Stoke as well. Mark Robins, quite a stubborn manager, not usually one to take defeat lightly. So I think this will be a big game for Stoke, and I think both teams will come away with a point.
I was going to go with a 1-1, but just to differentiate, I think that the trend of teams getting beat by Coventry having a little bit of a boost is going to continue. You know what? I'll go with the Portsmouth win. Another home game for them. They're going to want to get their get back. I don't think that Stoke are going to be able to withstand their attack. It was pretty decent against us. They showed, especially at the end, you already said it, 5 more minutes in that game, maybe they would have equalized. Let's go with a 2-1. Why not? Watford game just ended. Watford got the win, so they're going to have a little bit of confidence going into our match against Coventry at the CBS. So Watford versus Coventry. I have to stick with the prediction that I gave in my match review. I'm going to go with a 2-1. Now Watford are coming off a result. It's a bit conservative. It is us not having a clean sheet again. We know that that was just broken. I'm going to go with the 2-1. There were a couple players that the Watford fan I had a conversation with mentioned, especially down that right side. I think Jay DeSilva is going to have his hands full, but I think ultimately our quality will shine through. What about you?
I'm gonna be confident for the first time here. I mean, I'm not always too overly confident at Coventry, and I don't want this to come and bite me in the backside. But this is a Watford side that are very hot and cold. A 2-1 win at home to West Brom is absolutely fantastic. We'll go on and speak about West Brom in a minute because they're another team that are having to play half 12. Watford, for me, obviously sacking their manager so early on can give you the sign that they haven't had the best of starts. But I think they're in and around the area of the table where they'd probably be expected to be 12th, 4 wins, 3 draws, 4 losses, 1 loss in 5 now. And I think Coventry will be one of them games where I think they're going to go into with at least a tad bit of confidence coming off a win. I know they lost to Sheffield United last weekend. They had a really rocky start, losing to the likes of Millwall and Blackburn, Norwich as well, all sides that have really, really struggled this season. So for me, I'm going to kind of use that logic. Plus, they haven't really played any of the kind of top sides yet. Still yet to play us, Middlesbrough. I know we've spoken about Ipswich earlier on, and them being one of the sides that have underperformed, but they're still yet to play them. So a tough, tough 2 weeks for Watford. They've got Coventry away, then Middlesbrough at home. So two very, very tough games. I'm going to go Coventry City 2, Watford 0. I think there's going to be another Rushworth clean sheet. I don't think it's going to last forever. And I do think there will be games where we are broken down at the back. But last night we were very, very solid. Very, very solid. So for me, I think again we're going to be solid at the back. If Hadji Wright's back in the side and he gives that kind of maximum effort that I know that he can on occasion. Plus, him and Asante are going to be at it now for top scorer in the league, which, I mean, we cannot complain about that at all. So for me, I'm going to go Coventry 2, Watford 0, despite Watford coming off a 2-1 loss. I'm sorry, a 2-1 win against West Bromwich Albion. And speaking about West Bromwich Albion, I'm predicting them to go back-to-back defeats on the road, Portman Road, half 12 kickoff. I think Ipswich will nick a 1-0 win. There's not too much thought behind this. I know we've spoken, obviously, about Ipswich in this episode, but for me, I think they've got to have that little bit of bounce back now. Like I said, they're decent at home. A 3-0 loss is not acceptable, really, just looking at that and where they were last season. So they're going to want that kind of bounce back ability. I think they can scrape a 1-0 win at home. I think Albion are a decent side, but on the road they seem to struggle a little bit more, and I think that will be the same again. Will this be the turning point for Ipswich Town? Who knows, but I think it's a good step in the right direction.
I'll go 2-0 in that game to Ipswich. I think Philogene will grab a goal at home, backs against the wall, specifically for Kieran McKenna. Let's go 2-0 to Ipswich in that game. I don't think they are going to tumble again. That brings us to the 3 p.m. kickoffs. First one, Blackburn and Southampton, two teams not trending in the right direction. I'm going to come out here and say that I think Southampton are going to get a win, despite, the lackluster start to the season. Blackburn did nearly get that result against Ipswich. However, that game now never happened. Let's go with a tight 1-0 Southampton victory. What do you think?
I'm predicting a goalless draw in this game. You've got Blackburn Rovers, the side that have not. Well, sorry, I'm missing the point here. Blackburn Rovers, the side that scored the least amount of goals in the league this season. They're at home. I think they're going to kind of have to sit back a little bit and defend. But just basing off how they played last week, I think they came forward quite well. It was just in the final third they really struggled. And Southampton, I mean, they've still got the lurgy from Russell Martin last season, so they're probably going to get about 65% possession and not score despite having some of the best strikers in the division. So yeah, I think it's going to be Blackburn 0, Southampton 0 in this game. That's my only real logic on that. I don't see either team scoring. It'd be nice for at least one of them to pick up form because they're both struggling. It's a massive, massive game for both sides, just looking at where they are in the table. Blackburn really need to get out of that bottom three because they could be put under a lot of pressure. And I mean, you know, we saw how much they've struggled in recent years in that relegation battle and only really just been able to stay up at times. So yeah, I feel like this could be another season similar to 2 seasons ago when they just about stayed up near the end. So this is a crucial game for Blackburn. But my prediction is a 0-0 draw at Ewood Park. Moving on to a game at Ashton Gate. Now this for me is a pretty difficult one to predict, to be honest, because you've got Bristol City versus Birmingham. I'm sure Birmingham fans are buzzing to go to Ashton Gate for probably the 50th time ever. This is the most championship fixture ever, despite Birmingham being in League One last season. Bristol City, I think they've started quite well. Definitely defied my expectations despite being in the playoffs last season. Birmingham will really want to start hitting form now. Chris Davis's side picking up a win midweek. Again, though, it's a tough one. But I think Birmingham will probably scrape this 1-2-1, but I don't want to underestimate Bristol City too much. So this is, again, a tough one to predict. I'm going to call it Birmingham 2, Bristol City 1.
I'm going to go with a draw in this game. Bristol City getting the home advantage. They're a tactical team. They've pulled some good results this year. They've shown they don't need the ball. They've shown that they can dominate possession. Let's go with that home field advantage. 1-1 draw. Chris Davies back to being under pressure. QPR, Derby next. Interesting one there. Probably going to have to go QPR on the road. Derby are just coming off of a win. Patrick Adjemang has been pretty impressive since he has become fit. A big physical presence up there. But QPR, despite just falling out of the playoffs, have had a good run of fixtures. They've got some danger in the attack force. I think they will outsmart and bully the Derby defense. Let's go 2-0.
For me, this one's a little bit of a tough one to predict. Obviously, Derby, the home side, they're going to want to really go at QPR and they're going to want to at least give them a little bit of revenge from last season's 4-0 defeat. But Derby, obviously the home side, again, similar to Blackburn, will need to start picking up points. QPR, like you say, I feel like that 7-1 loss to Coventry was absolutely massive for them. But then, I mean, I think that kind of good run of form might have ended now. And I think this could again be a little bit of a knock-on effect for QPR. So I'm going to go different here. I don't want to go and always just pick the better team are going to win. Despite QPR winning against Swansea midweek, having that backup from losing away to Millwall, I do think this will be a 1-0 to Derby tight game. QPR will, probably be the better team throughout and Derby will probably nick it. A tough one to really go the other way, especially with how well QPR have done. But I don't want to always pick the better team because it's the Championship. Anyone can beat anyone. I've got to throw at least one wild card in there. And this next one for me, I feel like is probably the toughest game to predict. Before we go on to what is probably one of the more easier games to predict. I say that. I feel like every game in the Championship this coming weekend is a pretty tough one. If you're a betting man, I probably wouldn't put many Championship games on. Hull versus Charlton. literally pick names out of the hat, win, lose or draw here, because you've got Hull who have just beaten Leicester, Charlton who have just smashed Ipswich at Portman Road. I'm going to go with 2-1 to Hull just because they're at home, and that's my only thought process behind that. No disrespect to Charlton. I think Hull are in fantastic form. Charlton are in fantastic form. It could go completely either way. I think Hull will just have that home advantage. They're a tough side to break down. And again, I think we spoke about in the last episode how I think you said something along the lines of Charlton don't score many goals. I mean, they're not stopping at the moment. 3 against Ipswich. So this championship so hard to predict. Yeah, I'm going 2-1 to Hull. I don't know what you think on that, Joner, but I think that will be a tough one to predict. You could even go with a Charlton win. I don't know.
That's going to be a really fun game to watch because Hull have been scoring at will and Charlton surprisingly, have been bagging goals. But really, the best part about Charlton is just how well set up and structured they are. Good coach, 5-back formation. There's no question they're going to go in there and they are going to defend for their lives. I am going to go with a 1-0 to Hull. So they're going to pull the Nathan Jones tactics against them, get that really stout 1-0 victory. I think it'll be a lot of counterattacking for Charlton, but I think ultimately Hull's good form will continue, and I think that would cap off a 9-point week for them. Both of these teams have the opportunity to get 9-point weeks, so this is a very, very big fixture. I'm looking forward to watching that one. I'm glad that it's after the Coventry game. I'll definitely whack that on. That brings us into another one, which maybe at first glance you may think would be easy to predict. Middlesbrough versus Wrexham. It's going to be tough for them to get a result on the road against Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough just capped off a 1-0 victory. Sort of just locked up shop in the second half against Sheffield Wednesday. Did what needed to be done. It's going to be tough to not back Middlesbrough at the moment. I mean, I think a very likely scoreline in this game is just a 1-0. I'm just going to go with that. It's boring, but it's just being smart. I'm kind of looking at these things as if I had to be forced to put money on it or something. Let's just go with a 1-0.
Well, I am going to go with a result that Wrexham have been very familiar with over the past couple of games. They played Derby County at home on the 27th of September, pulled off a 1-1 draw. 3 days later, pulled off a 1-1 draw away to Leicester, then played Birmingham at home. It was another 1-1 draw. So, hey, I mean, 2 of the past 3 home games have ended 1-1. The only one that didn't, they won 1-0. So Wrexham like to score 1 goal. I know they didn't away at Stoke, but we'll kind of move on. They like to get at least 1 goal. Middlesbrough started really well, but however, I don't think they'll continue being just 1 point behind Coventry if Coventry go on to win. I think Rob Edwards is a good manager. He's got a good side. And I think Coventry and Middlesbrough are bang on top 2 at this point going forward. But for me, it's going to be Middlesbrough 1, Wrexham 1. I think Wrexham have got some decent options up front that can obviously put the ball in the back of the net. But as we know, Middlesbrough are not an easy side to break down. So, yeah, it's not going to be an easy game for either side. Wrexham obviously have that kind of newly promoted, what's the word I'm trying to think of, kind of glitter around them that, a lot of teams haven't played Wrexham in a very long time. I couldn't tell you the last time Middlesbrough would have played Wrexham in a league game. So excited to see how that one goes. For me, though, it's going to be a 1-1 draw. And moving on to a game that I don't think will have much glitter around it. I feel like there's only really 1 goal in this one, and I think it will be back-to-back defeats for the Foxes. Millwall versus Leicester. Now, I mean, when Leicester were in the league a couple of seasons ago, I think they did struggle against Millwall. I know they picked up a win on one of the occasions, but Millwall were able to beat them on another occasion. Leicester are coming off a defeat on the road to Hull, and I don't think it will get much better for them, if I'm perfectly honest. I think Millwall will probably go on to win this game 1-0. Alex Neil will probably shut up shop. It will probably be a scrappy goal from, I couldn't tell you, Ivanovic. I don't really know. But these predictions are all fun. There's no logic behind this. I just don't want to go and pick the best team in every situation, even though I am actually picking the better team here at Millwall. Leicester, I'm going to go Millwall 1, Leicester 0. Yeah, really tough week to predict, really, because I think I mean, to speak about Millwall, I'm sure we'll probably talk about them in a little bit more depth if things go on to continue. But I think all the games they've lost have been quite shocking results. From that 4-0 loss against Coventry, they've gone on to beat West Brom 3-0, QPR 2-1 away from home, and 2-0 against Stoke. So three very, very good results for the Lions. I mean, to look at their other games that they've lost, they lost 2-0 to Wrexham at home early on. After this, went on to get a point away at Charlton, which is now actually really good on paper. But like as well, I mean, 3-0 against Middlesbrough is nothing to be embarrassed about. So the games that they've lost, other than the Wrexham one, which is probably a bit of a shock defeat, it's nothing for them to really be embarrassed about. I think Millwall are going under the radar a little bit, and I think they could pick up 3 points here. What do you think, Jonah?
Yeah, so just want to shout out, by the way, apologies to Millwall fans. We didn't give them, I guess, the time and discussion that they deserve sitting third in the table. They've been really good since the Coventry defeat. They just picked up a 2-0 win against Stoke yesterday. Very, very lethal. They created a ton of chances. Also, they were able to absorb the Stoke attack very well, as we know. The likes of Sorba Thomas, they create a lot of chances, but Millwall did a good job defending and then being clinical when they needed to. They are home. They are going to be in London at the Den this game. Leicester very frustrated. You've got the likes of Fatawu going on Instagram and posting a picture of a bruise on his foot and
Oh,
talking about how the referees are losing the game, this and that. Gonna be tough to defend Fatawu. I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet in this game. I'm gonna go with a 1-1. Let's give Leicester the benefit of the doubt.
mm.
They have a lot of individual quality. They haven't exactly clicked completely as a team yet, specifically in the final third. I'm gonna go with a 1-1 here. I think that's a fair result in this game. Now we are getting to the end here. Let me pull the fixture sheet back up. This is a relegation special. Sheffield Wednesday versus Oxford United. Sheffield Wednesday at home. Sheffield Wednesday have not been great at home. We know that they do have the emergency keeper. They did lose 1-0. The game ended up going final. Horvath, the American, will be back. Don't think it changes much. On the road, I'm going to take Oxford here. Come in and get a victory. Oxford did go down today, but let's go with a 1-0.
I think I'm going to go with another 0-0 here, Jonah. I really want to back Sheffield Wednesday here. I really do. I think, despite it being a defeat, a 1-0 against Middlesbrough is nothing to be embarrassed about. I think there'll be a lot of teams, especially in that lower half of the table, that can come away from a game at home to Middlesbrough, a 1-0 defeat, and go, hey, you know what? We played a really good side tonight. So I'm going to go over 0-0. Sheffield Wednesday can't lose every game. They do still have a bit of quality in their side. And Oxford, I mean, I think now looking back, that 2-2 against Oxford, for me, is a little bit of a tough result to take. Because if we'd have won that game, we'd now be 3 points clear. And it's a really, really good result for Oxford. Really, really good result. For me, I'm just going to go over 0-0. Sheffield Wednesday, Oxford. I don't think it's going to be the most exciting game, but I think Sheffield Wednesday will shut up shop and defend. Before we go on to what is, I don't know whether the even a more championship game than Bristol City Birmingham. Swansea versus Norwich, two teams that even followed each other to the Premier League for short stints. These sides have played each other 56 times. Swansea won 23, Norwich have won 23, and they've drew on 10 occasions. This one, for me, I think will be Swansea's 24th win against Norwich. I think they'll win this game 2-0. Norwich have really, really struggled, and I do think this will be the end for Liam Manning at Carrow Road. I think, yeah, I don't see it getting any better for Norwich. I really don't. And again, similar to the Oxford game, only getting a point against Norwich is so, so frustrating. If they take the lead, they'll probably get a point out of the game, if I'm perfectly honest, from that. Simeone would be very, very impressed watching Norwich, because that is more haram ball than he plays. Like, that is like horrendous. But yeah, I mean, I think if Swansea can get an early goal in this game, they've got some decent players. They can put the ball in the back of the net. I think it will be a game where Swansea come away with 3 points.
Oh man, I want to back Norwich City for some reason. But first off, I will say Haram did not work out very well yesterday against Arsenal, did it? Victor Gyökeres bagged 2 goals.
No.
I saw one of the funniest TikTok edits. It's becoming a very popular thing to dunk on him anytime he doesn't score, which is a little bit unfair, but I think that might just be their Arsenal rep. People love to, throw shade at Arsenal. But this is below the Prem. That is the Prem. We do not care about that. Well, we do, but we
Well, we
don't.
can speak about Gyökeres. I'll speak about him all day. What a player!
Yeah, what a
But
boy.
I mean, I'm seeing a lot of it as well. I've had a lot of it from going to watch him play for Arsenal. Just
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, but he left us. Like, yeah, and what? Like, there's very like a handful of players that have gone on to better things after leaving Coventry.
Wouldn't you want that?
Um, yeah, like exactly. I mean, other than him, James Maddison, you could make an argument for Gustavo Hamer just because he got a season in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, Callum Wilson obviously as well. But we're going back 10 years at least here.
Hmm.
So I mean, and I know we've had loan players like Adam Armstrong, Jacob Murphy, so many loan players, Jordan Henderson as well. But I wouldn't really count the loan players so much than the actual players that we've had permanently. So I mean, all the best to Gyökeres. I can't believe we've gone on to Victor Gyökeres from Swansea versus Norwich, by the way.
Yeah, well,
um,
it is what it is. We're not all championship, I guess, even though it's below the Prem. But yeah, I could definitely see this pool of Coventry players probably doubling the level or the number of players that eventually go on to play in top flights. But that's a story for another day for us to, shed tears over. But you know what? Norwich City are going to win this game. Josh Sard's going to get on the score sheet. Tight victory, but no rationale at all. I saw them pull off a defensive masterclass once against the top scoring team in the league. I think they'll do it again. I think they're going to win 1-0. Now, Alex, one of us is going to have to track these predictions, and we're going to have to laugh at
okay.
ourselves next week, okay? So this weekend, let's hope for the best. That is pretty much going to wrap it up here. If you made it to the end, thank you guys. Sorry this is out so late. It's just it's our second episode. We just made it to our second episode. We're still figuring things out. The main thing is that, you guys enjoyed this. You guys are enjoying it, enjoying the content. We're always up for, constructive criticism. Alex had told me that. A couple people at the games had mentioned things. You guys can comment, message us. If there's anything you want us to speak about in the following episodes, just please do. Alex, before we head out of here, any final thoughts you want to tell them? To comment, subscribe, whatever.
Well, just one thing on what you said, just as a thought process, because obviously we wanted to do a championship podcast, but it's a 3 game week.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to. Obviously, a lot of people might know as well. I was in Poland on Sunday. Only just made my flight back as well. Yeah, a load of stuff happened on the way back that no one even knows about. Anyway, back to the point. So the only opportunity we had to film was Monday. However, if we'd have just spoke about this weekend's games, when this was put out, maybe Monday night, you'd have listened to it on Tuesday at the earliest, because by Wednesday we could have sat there and gone, I don't know, Birmingham City are in big trouble, and then Birmingham City turn round and pick up 3 points at Deepdale. So in the future, it would be perfect in the perfect world for us to film on a Saturday or a Sunday and get it out. But sometimes, we're only human after all. Don't put the blame on us. You know what I mean? It is what it is. So at the end of the day, we need to kind of figure out some sort of schedule. And I'm sure we'll get there at some point. But thank you everyone for the support. Obviously, this is only the second episode. The next episode will be out next week, after this weekend's games. Then, I mean, we haven't got any midweek, which is good. And then obviously the week after that, we do have some midweek. So yeah, we'll have to find out what you guys think. We'll ask you guys in this episode and the next episode what you guys would prefer. Whether we do it every game week, maybe, a midweek, because obviously there's going to be games Tuesday and the Wednesday as well. So whether we get it out on the Thursday, who knows? Because if we were just following one club, if this was a Coventry City podcast, it'd be so easy for us to sit down for half an hour and speak about one game of football. When we've got to speak about 12 games of football played over 3 days, is very difficult. So yeah, that's my kind of speech over. Thank you all for your support on this podcast. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. Like I say, over 250 of you have. We're pushing 2,000 listeners for the first podcast on Spotify and YouTube. So thank you very much. We are trying to get it on Apple Music at the moment. I'm having some trouble with that, but yeah, I guess it will be on there soon. I apologize. But yeah, YouTube, Spotify. Thank you all for listening. Like, subscribe, follow, do all that good stuff. Follow us on social media as well. Do you want to shout that out, Joner?
Yeah, guys, thanks for listening. Subscribe to our YouTube channels. Follow us on socials, TikTok, Twitter. I'm on Instagram now. I'm Joner Fat Cat. He is Alex Craig. Thank you all for listening, and peace.